Now, one of the other things that we can do, let me come back and pick out one more piece here to show you, and we'll close this up. Let's take a rainbow. Let's say I find something that's really important, and I can go to the collector case, click on it. Notice that my cursor, this thing that's dancing around with me, is no longer a question mark. It looks like a little highlighter. So I can go, okay, let's take that right there. Hit the command button. And what I did was just save that into collector box number 1, 2, 3, 4. I can shift that at will. So again, as I travel through this, I have all these different ways of collecting whatever is meaningful to me and separating it and organizing it in seconds as I'm flying this learning ship. The other thing that I want to get into is what happens when there isn't any support. Like we go to the word reflected, and the word reflected has basically a sound to pronounce it. And I said, well, geez, that doesn't help. What I'd like to do I'd really like to see the etymology of that word, reflected. And it wasn't there, it wasn't part of the system. So I can hit a button as a learner real quick, and this little window pops up. And this little window is real important. I'm going to explain some more about this real quickly. But it wakes up in the feedback mode. And what it's feeding back is, it says, I'm a learner, I want to send something back to the people that are creating this stuff. When I went to look at this word reflected, and I wanted to find the roots of it, it wasn't there. So when I pressed that button that fast, I've told whoever created this material that I was a learner, I was here, I wanted something there, and you didn't have it. In other words, this is not only a learner interface for the learners that are using it, everything they do provides a learning lens through which everything that flows into it learns to work for learners, the way to optimize the curriculum, if you will. Similarly, they can, let's pick something else. They can elect to not only send feedback to that effect, but they could create it themselves. This deals with constructionism. One of the things we didn't talk about this morning was all the different educational research that bears on what's going on, but what we've been talking about. But one of the things that is very important is the idea that we want to create environments in which everything that we provide as resources for learners becomes kind of the scaffolding from which they create material, because that way in the act of their constructing, they are participating in it more deeply. And that when they create it, it just folds back into the system to become part of the support resources that facilitate the learning of the next generation. This system is designed to do that, to collect feedback about everything a learner does, to allow them to say, hey, I had a meeting here and you didn't help me with it. To allow them to say, well, this is so interesting, I'm going to go to the regular library, I'm going to go outside of this system, I'm going to figure out what this is, I'm going to create it, and then I'm going to publish it, and then it just flows into the rest of the system. Or to jump into a mode where they can say, no, I'm going to send a message to Barbara about this. And when I do that, I send a piece of mail through the networking system such that when Barbara turns on her machine next and she reads my mail, it automatically situates her learner interface to what is a rainbow and to the issue about light waves and whatever it is I now say. So if you will then, this learner interface is like a flying learning ship. Its primary design is to allow learners to use their emerging meaning needs as the basis of flying the ship, because that's what helps them learn about the relevance of their needs. And that part of how it works is that at any time that they do have needs that aren't met, the system learns from that, so that curriculum content material can start to evolve in a way that actually reflects the needs and decrease the assumption gaps. And that it's also a system that, as we've said, allows for different kinds of feedback and different modes of collaboration through a very structured mail system and various kinds of publishing. Now, I want to stop talking. Maybe we can turn the lights back on. I want to stop talking about this technology now and once again say, despite the fact that I kind of get on about it, having been developing it and having it been part of my whole thought environment to play with what things might be like in the future, that what we're trying to do right now is not talk about technology. We're trying to say, can you imagine what kind of difference learning in an environment like this would be over learning from a book? Or learning from any kind of information resource that causes learners, when they need more, to just shut down at that level, or have to take 3 or 5 minutes if they're in the middle of the library to go find something. I mean, how many of you do that? How many of you, when you have all kinds of needs like this, when you encounter something that you're uncertain or curious about, how many of you stop whatever it is you're doing in the world and go track it down? You don't. I mean, occasionally you do, but for the most part you don't. You got hundreds of times that comes up and you shut it off for every few that you follow through on. And when we teach kids to do that, I'm saying we're teaching them to cut off, to just chop off the fountainhead of their capacity to learn. So this is one expression of our vision and our work, is a piece of technology that will ultimately become, if not as our technology, the spirit of this technology, become a different way that learners can evolve in an informational relationship.